So we come to the wine that really defines HillCrest, and long before Susan and I took over from Richard Summers, this was the wine that really locked down his role as the pioneer and the father of Oregon wine. Richard was the first to plant Pinot Noir in the state of Oregon, which there are over 8,000 grape varieties in the world, and if you look at many of the famous wine regions of the world, it took them several hundred years to figure out, in the case of Cabernet Sauvignon and Bordeaux, 800 years before Cabernet was first planted, from the time they began making wine. So Richard Summers in 1961 purchased the property, planted Pinot Noir, and began producing Pinot Noir in 1963, but not commercially. The first commercial vintage was the 1967 that he made 200 cases of. And as far as we know, there's only a case of this left anywhere in the world, and that's here at HillCrest. To my right is one of those bottles, a 1967 Pinot Noir that he produced. That, in today's terms, it's a very, very special bottle. If you can put yourself out maybe 200 years, 300 years, to have the first of its type that's really the flagship for the state of Oregon is a truly amazing thing. And that led to many things. Also, HillCrest being a state historic site, it's the only winery in the Pacific Northwest that is a state historical site. And that is there's a monument to that as you enter the winery. What I'm going to pour you is the 46th vintage of Pinot Noir produced here at HillCrest. And we make two different styles. The reserve style that's more of a modern kind of full-bodied style using some modern clones or types of Pinot Noir. And then we do an old school. And old school comes from a 1968 planting that's currently the oldest Pinot vineyard planted in the state of Oregon. And it speaks to a very different time and place where the Pinots that made Oregon famous, and this begins to come back a little bit now, are wines that are very tender, very supple, very feminine. And that's something that kind of leans maybe more towards the French style of Burgundy. But this is our 2013 Pinot Noir Old School, which is a wine that speaks to that style, as I mentioned. So the first thing that hits me as the wine enters the nose, from a great distance, you can smell the perfume of a very gentle, kind of delicate red fruit, almost like raspberry, strawberry, with like a balsam from the wood, just kind of a very sweet perfume, but very delicate, aromatic. And it's perfume. I wish I could share this with you on camera, but it's just really, I can smell it here, just moving the glass around a little bit. In the mouth, huge volume, but tender. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing about the great Pinots of Burgundy here in Oregon, other parts of the world, is that Pinot has the ability to fill the entire mouth with volume and a sweetness of fruit and a freshness of fruit, but yet to be so delicate and perfumey. And the flavors still go on. Beautiful acidity that leaves my mouth watering quite a bit. And just kind of a kiss of what I begin to get right now, kind of a very delicate, kind of a sweet, smoky, a little bit earthy character, but a wine that's very, very young, that's meant to be aged. This wine's still very drinkable to 13, maybe in 10 years, I think. This wine should be beautiful and develop a lot just in the next 3 or 4. So to the genie in the bottle.